party peoples. Bobo here, BrassReel Brothers. Thank you so much for coming back for another episode of BrassReel Tonight, where we talk about everything that's coming out to the big screen, at home to stream, and all the shenanigans going on behind the scenes. Well, guys, not a lot going on over the weekend. I mean, I saw Don't Breathe and I saw Free Guy. And I say not a lot going on because, well, I'll talk about that in a minute. But we did have some stuff going on Friday that I'm going to talk about that I have to just cover. I just have to cover it, but because it came out sort of right as I did my show. But, you know, it's funny. I want to say this just real quick. So when I wake up in the morning, I start getting my stuff arranged for the show. I started getting everything just organized as far as my pictures, my comments, the articles I want to get, all that stuff. And believe it or not, it does take a little bit of time. Hang on one second. It does take a little bit of time. So from about 6:30 to 7 o'clock, I am doing nothing but research, and I have the news on, and it's on NBC. I'm an NBC guy. So that keeps going and that keeps going literally until 12 o'clock. So you get all kinds of news. Yeah, you got the 10 o'clock hour with like Jenna and Hoda. And that's a little bit less newsy. That's more like kind of a variety talk show type deal where they just cover all kinds of fun stuff. It's more of a hangout session. But before that and right after that, it's all news. And even at 11 o'clock, it's like local news. So I just find that easy to work on, like have that in the background, because I'm a no noise. I don't like no noise. I don't like silence. So I just find that easy in the background to have on. It doesn't distract me while I'm working, but it's informative. I get to stay up with the news, current events and world events, or local events and world events. And then every day at 12 o'clock, Days of Our Lives comes on. And dude, I even filmed a segment of it just a second ago. Excuse me. It was so hilarious what they're doing on this show. And I don't watch Days of Our Lives, mind you. Now, I will say this. When I was growing up, my grandma watched it. And so I was just inherently, I watched it too, because I was around. I was a little kid. She would babysit me. I'd watch it there. Or if my Aunt Angie, she would watch it. I'd watch it at her house. I'd watch the soaps, the Sturries. Anyways, all that being said, in high school, for some reason, me and my friends, we thought it was funny to just start watching it again. Like during the summertime, we would watch it on our day, during the summer, we all hung out at like one of my friend's house. It was like 8 to 10 of us sometimes hanging out at this house. And his parents were always like working out of town. So he just had this house, or we had this house to ourselves. And it was no kidding. We would watch Days of Our Lives, and we kind of got hooked on it for a couple years after that, actually. And it was not like we really liked the show. It was more of this idea of, look how ridiculous this is. And we can have some fun with it. We can make fun of it. Well, now when it comes on, I can't help but keep it on. And don't get me wrong, I'm not watching it. I can't even tell you what's going on with it. But it's so fun to just keep on to see. It's like, what are they doing here? And at this point, they're starting to get even some like washed up actors that you knew from like the 80s and stuff. Like there's this one actor or this one lady on there, you'd know her from an old sitcom from the 80s. And I can't remember exactly what sitcom it was, but you'd recognize her. I promise you'd recognize her. And it's just, God, terrible acting. The worst, just the worst acting in the world. And I mean, I'm having fun watching it, but I'm thinking to myself, what are these people doing with their careers? Why are they even a part of this? Like, how do they watch this after it's filmed? And me, I'm like, oh my God. And they film this daily too, Anyways, I just had to mention that. It's hilarious. I'm sitting here every time before I do this show. Believe it or not, the last thing that I've had on my eyes on is Days of Our Lives, outside of the news articles and everything that I'm covering. But anyways, to some news. And you know what? First off, guys, let me just say, if you got any comments you ever want to send in, and you want me to talk about anything, and you haven't been able to send anything in during the show, during the live stream, and you just have like a question or something you want me to discuss, you can always send it to brassreelbobby@gmail.com. I'll definitely discuss it. I'll bring it up. If it's within reason. If it's something ridiculous, I'm not going to bring it up. Or maybe I will. Who knows? But send it to this right here if you can't send it during the live stream. brassreelbobby@gmail.com. But if you can attend the live stream and if you're interested in sending anything in, just comment in the comment section and I'll respond to it. And you don't have to put your name or anything like that if you don't want to, but sometimes it's cool to interact with people I know or get to know the community, because that's kind of the whole point of this thing. Every time I'm doing this, I feel like that something's wrong with the audio, so I got to adjust it. I feel like that's a little better now. It was a little sharp, little sharp. Now it's better. Well, what we did have come out over the weekend, guys, especially on Friday, as far as some trailers, is we just had the trailer for. Now, you guys know who Ryan Murphy is and Brad Fulchek. I'm sure you do. They're the guys in charge of American Horror Story. And we had the American Horror Story double feature trailer come out. And I'm pumped up about this. One, I'm an American Horror Story fan. I love American Horror Story. What can I say? I think it's a great show. Yes, some seasons are better than others. And some of the endings sometimes are a little off, like they miss the mark. But for the most part, I really enjoy that show. I always enjoy the tone. I always love the risk they take, the adventurous side they go with the storylines. And this one, they've got a lot of fresh actors. A lot of old school cast members returning that you know. And that's another thing I really like about the show, that not any other show has really done well like this one has. This one, they truly, truly implement new characters with the same actors, and they pull it off. They don't just try to make you, oh, I guess I believe that. This one, you really believe it, even sometimes playing different characters in the same season, which they only did that one season, I think, for Apocalypse. But I'm really excited about this. I love American Horror Story. Evan Peters, to me, is an amazing actor that's just way, way ahead of his time. I feel like he'll be around for a long time. I look forward to seeing him for a very, very good while in Hollywood. Can't wait to see what he's going to do once he's a little bit older of a guy. But, he does have that kind of look to him that like he doesn't age. That's Evan Peters on the left there. It's like Evan Peters might stay looking like a little kid for the rest of his life. But he's a phenomenal actor. Everything I've not seen him in anything that I don't like. Everything I've seen him in has been great. But the reason I was saying you guys know Ryan Murphy and Brad Fulchek is because they also occasionally do other shows. And sometimes I think they had that one show. It's called Pose. I think that's how it's pronounced. But then also The Politician was another great one by them. They've done now they're doing American Horror Stories, which is the spinoff of American Horror Story, which I'm kind of okay on that one so far. It's starting to. The last episode I liked. I'm curious to see about this next one, but still, to me, the best episode was the best storyline so far was the first storyline, the two-parter, the Rubber Woman, whatever. That one to me was the best one so far. But they've done a bunch of other things and expressed out some of their TV show ideas that they've really come to life in a lot of different genres. And now they've done the American Crime Story. So instead of American Horror Story, you got American Crime Story. And the new one is American Crime Story Impeachment. And this one, man, looks really, really good to me. Now, if you don't know what it's about Monica Lewinsky's scandal with Bill Clinton. And so far, we've got, is it Linda Tripp, the one on the left there? I think it's amazing they've got Sarah Paulson playing her, because Sarah Paulson, if you've seen her so far, and I was not honestly able to find any actual clips, but if you've seen her so far in any of the actual trailer that they have, you can't tell it's Sarah Paulson at all. It doesn't even look like her. And then the girl in the middle here playing Monica Lewinsky, to be honest, I'm not familiar with her, but her name is Beanie Feldstein, and then and then Armie Ashford, Anaya Ashford, excuse me. For some reason, I can't read that properly. I apologize. She's playing the other girl, Jones. But what's really crazy is that Clive Owen is playing Bill Clinton. And to me, that is the craziest thing you see in the trailer. When he's playing Bill Clinton and do it, at first you're like, who is that guy playing Bill Clinton? I'm not sure. And then finally, like, is that Clive Owen? And you're even not, by the end of it, you're not totally sure that that's Clive Owen until you see his name in there. And you're like, oh, shit. I mean, it looks awesome. To me, the acting jobs already look great on this. And if you guys saw The People versus O.J. Simpson, that was really good too. And so I'm expecting the same kind of quality. It's going to be a limited series, obviously, just a certain amount of episodes that ends to the inevitability of what we know happens. But it just looks fantastic to me. And on top of that, Edie Falco is playing Hillary Clinton. So the dynamic between those two actors right there, that's enough for me to watch it, just to see those two. Because let's face it, whether you like Bill or don't like Bill, all of his shit has just been scandal driven for the most part, including his wife. And so that's just a story I want to dig into it. I want to dig deeper into that. I want to see it. And nowadays you get so many, you know, dramatizations of stuff come out on TV or in a movie. It usually is pretty enjoyable. I mean, it's just juicy stuff. But on top of that, it's going to be covering the scandal. So we're going to get to see everything. So I'm just excited to watch that. I'm excited to see how they paint the picture of these people, if they paint them in a good or a bad light, what just the choices they choose to go down. But with Ryan Murphy and Brad Fulchek doing it, I think that we're definitely in for some grittiness, because those guys don't ever, they don't shy away from just showing the gritty truth. It's the best way to describe it. American Horror Story, I mean, even before, because before, when American Horror Story first came out, they weren't able to do certain things on the show. They weren't able to curse, say certain words on the show. But they changed some rules with cable television and network television, but more so with cable television. Like, you can say certain things on network or cable television now way differently than you used to, and especially if it's after a certain hour. If it's after a certain hour, you can do whatever you want. And now with streaming platforms, the way they're doing that with like American Horror Stories, which is, it's being advertised as FX on Hulu. So those are coming straight out to Hulu. They can do whatever they want. They're dropping F-bombs in there. I mean, I think they shy away still from showing like gratuitous nudity, but if it lends itself to the story in the proper way, I think that they still are able to do it. So they can just do all kinds of different crazy things now. They can get really gritty. So with that being said, I'm pretty sure that this might get down and dirty, and I'm excited to see that. But I love a good juicy story. I love everything, you know, I love movies. But moving on, the double feature, but before I move on, excuse me, the double feature trailer looks really good. It's just the Red Tide trailer. It's only the first part, which is kind of interesting. I don't know how, I mean, that's just kind of weird that it's, you know, I'm going to actually put this up there on the screen. So it's American Horror Story double feature, part 1, Red Tide trailer that came out. So, I mean, that's a mouthful. And then the second one's going to, they even said the name of the second one. For some reason, I don't have that pulled up, but I mean, I think it's a cool thing that they're doing. It's just becoming a mouthful, you know, but no doubt I'm pumped up about it. And the fact that Evan Peters is back in it and all these other people, Macaulay Culkin, you even get a shot of him in there. And he looks gritty and not Home Alone Macaulay Culkin. All right. So I saw 2 movies over the weekend, and I got my review of Don't Breathe coming out. I just had a bunch of stuff come up. Sometimes I just get too busy to put it out right away. I go see it. Like, I saw Don't Breathe late Thursday night. And then as soon as Friday came up, I just had some other things that was some actually paid work that I just had to do to make some money. Just had to do it. So that's the reality of it. Hopefully people will still dig this Don't Breathe 2 review that I got coming out, because I did see it. And look, I loved the first movie. I thought that Don't Breathe was an unbelievable, phenomenal surprise hit of a horror film. It was a nice little nugget of a horror film that I didn't see coming. I don't think anybody else saw coming. But even so, while you're watching this movie, what I didn't see coming on top of that was how badass the twist was. And I'm talking about Don't Breathe 1, the first one. I mean, that twist truly was the M. Night Shyamalan eat your heart out type of twist. Like I said this before in one of my other streams, I guarantee you that M. Night watched that movie, and when he saw that twist, he was just like, oh! I know I was, and everybody else that saw it was, because that's how good the twist was. So with the second one coming out, which I gotta say, even immediately, I was like, is there a reason to make a second one on this? I guess because they did set it up in the end to where this guy the story isn't done. I'll just say that. And you know what? Spoiler alert. If you hadn't seen the first one, spoiler alert. But the way that he turns out to be like a piece of trash in the end of the first one, they didn't do that in the second one so much. And the way what he was doing with that twist at the end, they didn't connect that at all to the second movie. So like they had every opportunity to give you a reason to why he has a daughter in the second movie. And they didn't even connect that. So was it suspenseful in moments? Yes, it was. Did it have some good kill scenes? It did. Were there more kill scenes? Yeah. Was Stephen Lang a badass? He was. The twist was there. There was a twist, but it wasn't as good as the first movie's twist. It wasn't as shocking. It was brutal and it was jacked up, but it just wasn't as good as the first movie's twist. And even then, you're expecting a twist in this movie. So with the first movie, it was just like you had no idea the twist that was going to even be in there. You just thought it was going to be a horror film. While the movie's coming to an end, you're like, okay, I've seen this movie now. Like I know what's up with it. And then all of a sudden that twist comes in. And you're like, what? And in this movie, you're expecting a twist. So in certain ways, it's just way too hard to live up to something that had that type of delivery the first time around. It's kind of like M. Night's Cursed. M. Night, when he did Sixth Sense, nobody knew that twist was coming. So it was just such a freaking surprise. And then by the time he gets to all his next movies, people are like, what's the twist going to be? And that's honestly a hard thing to live up to. It really is. Now, if M. Night would have made like his second movie would have just been like Under the Table and something different, and it wouldn't have been sold as the guy that did Sixth Sense. However, that's not how careers start. I mean, not a lot of the time. Sometimes they do, but the only time you can just switch around and do whatever movie you want a lot of the time is if you're that type of director that is in the background and just does movies here and there, or you're like a studio director, or you're Spielberg. You know what I mean? But anyways, I'm getting off track there. With Don't Breathe 2, I'm just not sure it should have been made. I'm not sure that, with the first one, like I said, like Sixth Sense being something that was so crazy to live up to with Unbreakable, there was just no way that Unbreakable could have been as good as Sixth Sense. And with Don't Breathe 2, it was impossible for it to be as good as the first one. Had this been just like a revenge story about this guy trying to save his daughter, it might have been a little better. And because you wouldn't be comparing it to another film like the first Don't Breathe, and you also wouldn't be the character could make sense more of why he was doing this with his daughter, if you know what I mean, because they don't connect it the proper way to the first film. So it doesn't really make sense why they try to explain it. Just to me, I didn't buy it. But if it would have been a movie that had just been its own thing, a revenge story about a guy trying to save his daughters from these jerks, that would have been way better, in my opinion. Kind of like Halloween 3. If it would just been called Season of the Witch and there had been no Halloween title involved, I don't think people would have dogged on it as much and it would have gotten a better reception. But at the time, when you hardly had any slashers, you did have slashers, don't get me wrong. But when Halloween 1 and 2, they weren't a dime a dozen like they are now. When you got a Halloween 3 coming out, people are like, I got to see the third one. What's the finality of it? And then you go see it and it's like, no, Michael Myers. I mean, I love Halloween 3, but I get the why I would have been pissed if I would have seen that in the theater and been like, what the no Michael Myers? But I saw it way later. Watching it the first time, I knew there was no Michael Myers. So therefore I was like, oh, this isn't a bad movie. It's just, it was titled wrong. It was marketed wrong. And with Don't Breathe 2, if they would have done something different and it wouldn't have been Stephen Lang's character, and it would have just been a revenge story about a guy trying to find his daughter from these jerks, it would have been way better. But as a sequel, just couldn't hold up. And look, I guess during the pandemic, it did okay. It did 10.6 million opening weekend. I mean, for a horror film, that's not bad in the pandemic. I mean, that's half of what Free Guy did. And that's what I'm going to talk about next. Is Free Guy was okay. I saw it. Let me take that back. It wasn't okay. It was really good. It was very enjoyable. But it was very more Ryan Reynolds driven. I do like Jodie Comer. I think that she's really good. The girl on the left there, I see her going forward in the future. She's got a pretty big career, and she's not hard to look at either. And Ryan Reynolds is great in it, but it is a Ryan Reynolds movie. The movie is focused around him, and she's in it too. She is kind of his partner in it, as far as the co-star partnering in the film. But it was a full-on Ryan Reynolds movie. The plot was okay. I mean, it wasn't anything special. I did enjoy Ryan Reynolds and everything, and there was a lot of humor in it too. Don't get me wrong. It's a delightful movie in certain ways, and maybe that's what they were going for. And if they were, I think it succeeded, but it didn't blow me away. I wasn't just like, man, this movie's awesome. And it honestly, it actually hit the expectations. It like way bigger, but the movie theaters still have a problem as far as making their money because they just don't know what to do with raising ticket prices and stuff like that. But the movie still did well. It actually did 28.4 million. Now, that's pretty good. They expected, they had a 20 million goal, I think. So it did 28.4 million. And then it also did another 22.5 million globally, giving it 51 million totally. So for opening weekend, that's actually not that bad right now, considering the Delta variant is an issue. Now, if it would have been in just normal times, that's not what you would want, but it wouldn't have made that in normal times. It would have been done way better. I mean, you would have had all these other things going on, like the crazy movie pass deal or just something going on. You would have all these different types of subscriptions going on with people going to the theaters because they were already trying to do that. They just weren't implementing it properly, but they would have figured it out. So what does this say to me? It says to me that they're definitely on the right track with keeping it in the theaters, but can it actually sustain? Because let's look at this real fast. I'm going to put this up real quick. So Free Guy, 51 million global. The Suicide Squad has gotten to 118 million now. F9 now with overseas, and this is all talking about overseas involved, everything included. It's gotten to 500 million. Now, that's just overseas. That's pretty crazy. F9 is on its way to be the most successful movie of the year, but it also hit at a time where everything was just right. People were really getting out in the public again, and the Delta wasn't really hitting yet. But now they're talking about making a sequel to Free Guy because it was so successful during the Delta and all that stuff. I don't think that it warrants a sequel. Personally, I was good with just one, but they're going to try to make their money. And who knows where theaters are going to be in the next 2 or the next year? Who knows where we're going to be in the next 6 months? I really don't know. I mean, it's changing on a daily basis. It really is. Right now, the hospitalizations are going super up. And I'm not getting political, but when things like that in the world go on and it affects the movie world, then I'll talk about it. And that's what's going on right now, is we don't even know if theaters are going to be open. Who knows? Right now with the Carnival cruise ship getting some infections, and it's just all whack. And now with Shang-Chi coming out, I mean, that's another issue there, because that's a September 3rd movie. And we already got some other movies being pushed back, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But this movie comes out September 3rd, and this is a big thing for Marvel. This is something that they're really wanting to connect into the MCU, but also introduce into the MCU. When I say connect, I mean that this movie is supposed to intertwine really well with some previous knowledge that we already have, but also implement all these new characters that we've never seen before or in the MCU. Obviously, people like me, the nerds, and anybody else out there that you're comic nerds, you know who Shang-Chi is, and I keep on having to say Shang-Chi, remind myself to say that, not Shang-Chi, because they're saying that in the movie. That's even part of the trailer, like one of the comical parts of the trailer. So it's Shang-Chi. I have to put that into my permanent automatic way of saying it. Because I don't like saying it the wrong way. I mean, if they're explaining how to say it in the trailer, that's how you say it. Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi. But you got Aquafina in there, which is going to be great. And honestly, the movie looks really good to me. I'm really excited to see how they tie it in. And they are going to do just a theatrical release. But I mean, is the Delta variant going to prevent more people going? I would think that an MCU movie would make more money than Free Guy. But with Free Guy making more money than Suicide Squad right off in the opening weekend, is this a sign that comic book movies are going down? And I don't mean going down like they're going away, because they're not going to go away. They're just not. But I think we've all known that just like any other trend, whether it be when there was the vampire trend or then there was the zombie trend. And honestly, when the MCU started getting huge, the superhero trend blew up like crazy. So are we on that downfall? Are we on that decline of that trend? Meaning that, for example, zombie movies haven't gone anywhere. Vampire movies haven't gone anywhere. But the height of their success has, and the popularity of them has gone somewhere. That's gone down. They're still not going anywhere, and they'll still make them. And we'll still occasionally have a really solid one come out. So I think that we're kind of approaching that with the superhero films. Not saying that Shang-Chi is going to be bad, because I think it's going to be good. It actually looks really good to me. I'm more excited about that than I have been any other movie this summer. Like, I'm excited about all the movies I see, but this summer, Shang-Chi is the one that it's like, awesome. A new Marvel character. We got some new teeth into a new story of something in Marvel, you know, not something that's, and don't get me wrong, I love the continuing stories of like Loki and us seeing more stuff with Black Widow and then Falcon Winter Soldier, which was my least favorite. WandaVision was awesome. I love all that, but I still like to see some new characters. So that's really pumping me up. So I think it's going to be great, but I'm just not sure if the world is as excited about because Endgame was sort of like the money shot. If I can say it in a way that resembles what I'm trying to achieve, but without being too dirty. That's what the film Endgame or Infinity War and Endgame kind of together. But even then there was stuff in between Infinity War and Endgame. But Endgame being the full on, like, this is it, you guys. Check this out. Everything you've been watching is coming to an end. And a lot happened in that movie, and a lot was changed. And it was a pinnacle event. And the movie was awesome. Quality. I mean, in the top 3 comic book films of all time. Definitely maybe my favorite superhero film of all time. And there is a difference, because not all comic book movies are superhero films. But I really feel like because of that money shot film, that the casuals in the world, like I said, us comic book geeks, we're going to go see all of it. But the casuals that aren't comic book nerds that were just watching the MCU to watch the MCU, and now with the way Disney Plus is set up with the MCU shows on there that intertwine, that you kind of have to watch to know what's going on. Now I feel like that people are sort of like, after that money shot of Endgame, they're sort of like, oh, all right. Well, that was a good run, Endgame, Marvel, but cool. Nice little thing you did there. And now their interest might be going somewhere else. Not saying that they're going to leave completely, but that super, super pinnacle moment of comic book films, which I feel like we may have reached with Endgame, I think is on the decline. I hope I'm wrong. I don't want it to go anywhere. I want it to stay on top. I want people who never knew who Thor was 15 years ago now love him. You know what I'm saying? I want that to continue, but I do feel like that, just like any other trend, the height of its popularity is going to decline a little bit. But with that being said, Shang-Chi is still coming out. And recently, the star, Simu Liu, responds to Disney because Bob Chapek, look, he's making waves with everybody now. I mean, he's seriously getting in the way. He's saying that because now he's making like his relationships with a lot of his staff, his actors and producers, it's getting stressed. It's becoming a little bit tense. And he's saying this is going to be an interesting experiment. Now, I don't know why he's saying it's an interesting experiment. That wouldn't necessarily offend me so much, but he's constantly changing his ways. And why he's saying it's an interesting experiment, it's like these movies were designed to be released in the theaters no matter what. You're the one that made the decision to do some of these. From what I understand, he's the one that made the decision to do some of these things, like Black Widow being on the Premiere Plus, Jungle Cruise being on Premiere Plus. Well, recently, let me get that down. Sorry. Recently, Simu Liu has come out saying that this is not an experiment. He's like, I'm ready to kick ass. In fact, check this out. He put on his Twitter saying, we're not an interesting experiment. We are the underdog, the underestimated. We are the ceiling breakers. We are the collaboration of culture and joy that will preserve after an embattled year. We are the surprise. And I'm joined the F up to make, and I'm fired the F up to make history on September 3rd. Join us. And I said fired the F up because that's how it's written. F***K. Look, that looks awesome. I'm glad that he's excited about that. But it looks like at the beginning there when he's saying we are not an interesting experiment, it looks like to me he's kind of like bothered by that from Bob Chapek saying that. I'm not sure what that really meant from Bob, if he was just saying from a financial and standpoint completely, or if he was saying because it's an Asian character that they're implementing into the universe. And just now, not too far, I think yesterday, it came out that Kevin Feige said that Shang-Chi has actually apparently been a part of the master plan for almost 20 years. So even when Kevin Feige was back in the day, and I've got a little article on it right here, he said even back in 2000s, it was during the time that he had jotted down a list of characters that thought that could help build what he had never imagined would become a multi-billion-dollar film franchise of interconnected comic book projects. And Shang-Chi was on that list. It was only 20 or so characters, but he definitely remembered that that was a character that he wanted to bring into the life and be a part of this overarching story. Well, he's getting it. Shang-Chi's coming out. And like I said, I'm excited about it, but it is really cool to see Kevin Feige, how deep the ideas and all that, how well planned he was. And I think the only reason that started that way is because he was such a fan. I mean, even back in the 2000s, he knew who Shang-Chi was. And I keep saying Shang-Chi, like I say Shang-Chi. Even back in the 2000s, early 2000s, he knew who Shang-Chi was. And he was ready to get that guy in there because he liked the character and he knew that he could be a part of a bigger overarching narrative, which they're doing. So hell yeah. I'm glad Shang-Chi was thought of 20 years ago, back in the early 2000s. Good for you. Oh, gonna get that out of there. So moving on to some more Disney stuff though. Emma Stone recently just confirmed for Cruella 2. Now, I had thought that she was mad, and I guess that was just some rumors that get out of hand, but I thought that she was mad at Disney for releasing it on Disney Premiere. Maybe her contract didn't say the same thing. But look, Cruella was awesome. To me, that was, now, like I said, Shang-Chi is the one I'm most excited about. But Cruella is the best Disney movie they put out this year, in my opinion. I really like that one. I didn't do a review for it. It's just because I didn't have the time. And I might do one later on at some point if it's worth it. You know, not that the movie's not worth it. I'm just talking about worth my channel doing it. But Cruella was phenomenal. Really good story. Cleverly done. I didn't think that they could incorporate and make Cruella interesting to me into the already existing Dalmatians universe that a lot of us grew up on, the cartoon. Even when they did the live action version with Glenn Close and Jeff Daniels, that was really still, I mean, it was childish. Yeah, there were some darker moments maybe. And even the original, animated film, if you think about it, I mean, they're talking about making dogs out of coats. pretty, ugh. But they're still going with it, you know, and the movie worked. I thought that it blended well into the lore that you're already very aware of with the 101 Dalmatians. But now that they're doing a sequel, didn't they kind of, in this spoiler alert a little bit, but didn't they kind of set up the very end with Raj and his wife? Like, it showed Raj in his room with the piano and the notes, like the paper stacked everywhere, and he had like the trombone in the corner, and just like in the cartoon. So it felt like it was sort of setting up right to that movie. So now if they're going to go dig way into Cruella, if they're doing a Cruella 2, that means they're going to do 3. Maybe not, because the second Maleficent didn't do well at all. I thought they were going to do 3 of those, and the second Maleficent was just really badly received. I didn't even watch it, so I don't know. But I'm sure that their intention is to do 3 Cruella films and then maybe do another live action 101 Dalmatians. I don't know. Or maybe end it off with like 101 Dalmatians, the third one. Make Cruella 2 and 101 Dalmatians. And I'm not sure that they're calling it Cruella 2. That's just what they're it's just now been confirmed that they're doing it. And she said, yeah, I want to do it. So they might be calling it Cruella something, 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 something. I'm sure they will. That's usually what they do. Very rarely do they just put the 2 on there. They do that sometimes. But these days, if they have a bigger picture, they call it, they have a subtitle going along with it. So I love the first one. I'll go see the second one. I mean, like I said, you got to admit, Emma Stone was great. I don't think anybody could have done a better job than she did as Cruella, but she was just awesome. She's a phenomenal actress. The story was really interesting. It's something that made the character better as a villain, even though you were rooting for her in this. So I'm excited. Moving on to a little bit of drama in Hollywood. I'm sure you guys know these two right here. Johhny Depp and Amber Heard. Now, if you don't know, they've had a terrible little lawsuit thing going on for a long time now. And it was a case that it was all based on physical abuse. And I'm not sure if he started it first or she started it first, but it's been all over the place for years now. And he lost a case overseas, and now Hollywood's boycotting him. It's like, he that's what he's saying, at least, because he's lost that losing the libel case. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I promise I'm not a dumbass. But anyways, he goes on to say that he really feels like he's being blacklisted right now. He's got a movie called Minamata that's yet to score a U.S. release, and he feels like that because of this deal with his ex-wife Amber Heard, the whole domestic violence deal, that he's not getting releases out there. He feels like America is pretty much blacklisting him. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, but because of this, the fight between them two, her win, which mind you was an overseas court battle, not even an American court battle, but she works for Warner Brothers, and so is Johhny Depp. Johhny Depp had a really big contract with Warner Brothers, and these days that's the way a lot of actors will do it. They'll sign a contract with a studio, and then they'll just do a lot of films for them. So he was doing the Fantastic Beasts movies, and she's doing Aquaman, and she's supposed to be in part 2. Well, when that case came out overseas and he was found guilty in a foreign country case, because they live overseas, they do have cases in America, but because of that case, Warner Brothers fired him. And a lot of you guys are probably aware of that, but if not, they got rid of him and they chose Amber Heard. They found like she was more of a viable, moneymaker. And they did say that they've done their own investigation, and we're going to wait until we see what the court cases come out and say. Apparently their investigations line up with the court cases that showed Johhny Depp losing. And so they're going with him. I'm going with her. So they kept her, fired him. Now he still got all of the money that was supposed to be in his contract. So he didn't go broke because of it, but he doesn't care about that. He's lost his reputation. I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. I don't think anybody can sit here and say, yes, I know what happened. But it's kind of crappy that over a foreign case, a studio's just fired him over a lot of other cases hadn't happened yet. I mean, it's sort of like a guilty proven until proven innocent situation they're doing with him. Now, yeah, like I said, they did wait until one of the courts, a foreign court, said he was guilty or sided with Amber Heard. So I just think it's unfortunate that old boy's getting blacklisted right now in Hollywood. I mean, we're talking about Edward Scissorhands. We're talking about Jack Sparrow. I mean, and in way more than that, too. I mean, he's done Fear and Loathing. I mean, he was Hunter S. Thompson, for God's sake. A magnificent actor. Nightmare on Elm Street. Oh, my God. Phenomenal actor. A part of the zeitgeist, if you will, of Hollywood. Everybody remembers Johhny Depp. His name alone is cool. But he was one of those actors that just would always surprise you. You didn't think it's like, oh, here we go, Johhny Depp. Why is he even that? Oh, damn, he's awesome. You know what I mean? He always did stuff like that. So I just think it's unfortunate that it's gone downhill so quickly. Now, look, maybe some of these people in Hollywood know more about what the situation involves. Maybe they know some info that we don't have. Maybe this is going light on him. I don't know. But from what I know, it seems that he just got the shaft immediately. And in today's standards, it just seems like he's not being sided with at all. Maybe there's a reason for that. Who knows? Moving on to something else, though. This is crazy. I knew this was in development, but I didn't know it was for sure. And now it's been announced that it's into pre-production. Rob Zombie's The Munsters. What the F? Now, look, I love Rob Zombie. He hasn't done the best stuff. Like, not when I say the best stuff, I mean, like, not all of his stuff is awesome. To me, Devil's Rejects is in my top 5 horror movies of all time. Just crazy good horror film. Uncomfortable for sure, but crazy good. But he's doing The Munsters, y'all. The Munsters reboot is happening. Now, if you guys remember, I remember the Munsters. I love the Munsters. You got Herman Munster, who was awesome. You had the grandpa. You had the mom. I think her name was Lydia. Maybe I'm probably wrong on that. And then little Eddie Munster. Oh my God, he was awesome. That hair. Who didn't love that? But the reboot is happening, and I'm not sure if it's going to be super dark. It hasn't been confirmed yet. If it's going to be that dark Rob Zombie stuff that we're all used to, or if it's going to be the lighthearted stuff from the past that we all, but you know, if you look at that picture right there, you know, the show was in black and white. This is all in color. And I'm curious to see if the movie's going to be in color or in black and white or not. But this, with the color scheme involved here, this screams Rob Zombie, if you ask me. And I don't know if y'all know this, but the song, which I love Rob Zombie. I grew up on White Zombie and Rob Zombie music. And like I said, he's got some movies that don't work. I will definitely agree there. But the movies that do work are awesome, and there's more of those, and they outweigh the ones that don't work. I just think he kind of has a couple of bad days at the office here and there, but the majority of his movies are awesome. But this car right there, the Munster Mobile or whatever, I think it was called the Dragula. And if you remember that song Dragula by Rob Zombie, that's that song is about the Munsters car. So I think that's pretty cool that he apparently he's extremely inspired by the Munsters. And it doesn't say if he's going to be, like I said, super, super dark with it, but he will be true to the Munsters we all know and grew up with. But it's not a remake. I don't think it is. I mean, it might be. I mean, excuse me, it is a remake, but it's not like a family friendly deal. It might be, but from what I don't see Rob Zombie doing something family friendly. I just don't. I'm not sure that that's going to be up his wheelhouse. I don't think he can. And honestly, I'd rather see, I don't need him to be super dark, but I'd rather see him do something with them that's got like a darkness to it. And then turns out maybe they're not as bad as they came off as, or something, it's like, maybe it's just like really demented seeming. You meant like The Burbs or something, you know what I mean? Like The Burbs, the side of the house all the time that Tom Hanks is living next to, he's always just seeing all this whacked out shit, and he's seeing just crazy stuff, smelling stuff, hearing stuff. And it looks like there's like serial killers living next door. That'd be kind of cool if they did something like that, because apparently it's going to be existing with them being like in regular suburbia with every other normal people. And, they remade the Addams Family, but they never remade the Munsters. The Addams Family has been done 2 sequels, live action, or 1 live action movie with a sequel. So 2 live action films. And then they just did that remake with Charlize Theron, and apparently they're doing a sequel to that, which that was terrible. That was not good. So I'm curious to see what Rob Zombie's going to do with it. He does have a good ability for like the 70s and stuff like that. And I know he loves 60s TV. He's talked about that. I just want him to do like sort of that darkness. But if he does it to where like he could make it family friendly and make it, like I said, turn out to be like, oh, these guys really weren't bad. They just look all jacked up and messed up, and maybe they are weird, but they're not bad people. So who knows? I'm not sure the direction they're going with that, but I just wanted to talk about that a little bit because I knew that it was in talks. I just didn't know it had been confirmed. And like I said, now it's confirmed that Rob Zombie's The Munsters is in pre-production, and it will be happening. And usually Rob Zombie shoots on a really short schedule. So usually he shoots in like 30 days, and it is a movie. It's not a show. It's a movie. So, and like I said, I'm pretty sure he's going to do some darkness with it. I just don't see it being family friendly. It could be a hybrid of some sort with being majority dark, and then, okay, they're not that bad, but I just don't see it being family movie. Well, also something that came out on Friday too, guys, that I just had to talk about this, and this might not be any new news to people, and it's not that crazy big of a deal, but I'm wondering if it's going to last and stay. And I'm wondering if it's going to be something that is going to affect other films, because now Venom, Let There Be Carnage, is delayed. Oh, God. Look, it's only a month. It was supposed to be September 15th, and now it's releasing October 15th. Now, it was originally planned to release on October 2nd last year. So if the Delta variant keeps up like it is, I wouldn't be surprised if it got pushed back to next year. And I also wouldn't be surprised if Spider-Man No Way Home got pushed back to next year too, because I believe, I'm not saying they are, but I just have a reason to believe that they're connected somehow. I'm probably wrong. I'm probably very wrong, but I just having a reason to believe that. But we'll see with the Shang-Chi coming out. If that does well, then maybe they'll just stick Venom 2 to the October 15th still. And then maybe Spider-Man No Way Home will still come up because it's a Christmas movie. Who knows? Things could change completely. We still have Eternals coming out too. But Venom is being pushed back again. I don't think it's that big of a deal if it's just sticking with that 1 month. But who knows? With the Delta variant, it could be going way further than that. And I know Sony needs to make their money off these movies because they don't have anything outside of Jumanji and Ghostbusters and the Spider-Man property as a whole, Venom movies, Spider-Man movies, all that stuff. They don't really have anything else. I mean, Sony makes their money in the PlayStation world. They want to play in the movie world, and they still want to stick around, and they have for a while because they own Columbia TriStar, if anybody doesn't know that. But they've stuck around for a while just with those main few properties. I mean, they've had some stuff here and there that's intertwined. But Spider-Man and the Jumanji was a surprise success for them. And then the Ghostbusters trailer. Those are the only 3 now solid IPs that they own that people are going to come back to. So they have to make their money off these movies when they're putting them out. They can't just release them to make a $20 million weekend. I mean, they need those $100 million weekend openings, that 110 million, because Venom, the first one, was a massive success and a surprise success. It didn't quite reach $1 billion, but it almost did. And I enjoyed it. It's on the equivalent of Aquaman to me. I think Aquaman's the same style. It's super enjoyable. It's way over the top, but it's really fun. And they nailed sort of that. What they were going for, they nailed. There were a couple more complaints with Venom than I had with Aquaman, but Aquaman, I don't really have any complaints. I kind of thought they nailed what they were trying to go for. Venom, I felt like that there were some things it was like, it felt like a 90s movies here and there. Some stuff, it was just like, come on, that's just a little too goofy. And it looks like they're doing that again in the second one. So we'll see. But I'm super excited to see it, especially with Carnage. And I mean, I think they got to be tying Spider-Man in somehow. I'd love for there to be a cameo of some sort. But I really wouldn't be surprised if it got pushed back more, even to next year. And like I said, if that happened, that means the Delta variant is going to be doing some crazy stuff. And who knows what's going to happen with the MCU after that, with Eternals and Spider-Man No Way Home. I mean, and Shang-Chi is right around the corner. So I think they're going to keep that there. But they're not doing Disney premiere with it. Shang-Chi is coming out straight to theaters, and that's it. No Disney premiere. Because Fall Guy, they did the same thing with. Free Guy, they didn't. Fall Guy. Shows how much I love old school TV. The Free Guy, they did the same thing with. No Disney Premiere Plus release, only theatrical. And they're going to do the same thing with Shang-Chi, and they plan to do the same thing with Eternals and all that. Who knows with Delta variant, though? I mean, even within a week, we could be like, oh my God, lockdown, everybody stay in. So who knows? Well, last little bit of news, guys, and just some kind of cool, fun stuff, and then I'm going to get on out of here. But it's just released that, well, first off, Dune is coming out, and that one, I'm not sure if they're going to do an HBO Max release on that anymore. I'm not sure. Who knows? They might with Delta variant change, but I thought at one point I heard that was strictly going to be a theatrical film, but they probably are doing it on HBO Max because of Delta variant. Anyways, Timothée Chalamet is the lead character in this film, and it's got all these other actors in it, but Zendaya has only been, from what I understand, she's only in the first one a little bit. Well, the director, Denis Villeneuve, he just came out and said that Zendaya is going to be the lead actress in the second one. She will be the lead character in the sequel. Doesn't mean that Chalamet won't be in it, but I think that he's the lead focus in the first one and she's the lead focus in the second one. I think he'll be in the second one more than she's in the first one, but I do like that. And look, let's face it, she's a star. Zendaya is awesome. She's awesome in Spider-Man. She's super talented. She's very, very exotic and unique looking. And she's got what it takes, man. I'm definitely a big fan of her, and I'm glad that she's getting all these awesome roles. But it is the first of a duology. And when I say duology, I mean literally I think they film them at the same time. If not, they're filmed back to back. And it's the Frank Herbert's old school sci-fi novel. And they're doing it. I'm the way that they did it, because WB Warner Brothers was it. The way they did it, chapter 1 and chapter 2, I'm sure that's how they're doing this one. Now, they didn't call this one chapter 1. They just called this one Dune. So I'm curious what they're going to call the second one. But Zendaya will be the focus of the second movie, like I said, which is warranted. She's a great actress. I like everything that she's been in so far. She's really good in Spider-Man, obviously, but she's amazing on that show Euphoria on HBO. If you haven't seen that, check that out. She's awesome in that. I mean, just phenom. So we'll see how the release is going to be with all that and everything. I really hope it's good with Dune. And if theaters are in action, I'm definitely going to go be seeing that one in the theater. Even though it's on HBO Max, I'll just rewatch it on HBO Max. I got to see that in the theater. I have to. I just have to. And most of the movies that are coming out, I still go see in the theater, even if they're on HBO Max. When I couldn't go to the theater, I wouldn't. Or if it was a movie like Tom and Jerry, something like that, I just watched it on HBO Max. Space Jam, HBO Max. But something like this, I got to go see in the theater. And I'm totally looking forward to Dune because the book was awesome. Everybody, I think, even super people that aren't super readers still maybe be aware. If you're a sci-fi fan, Dune. You're aware of it. The 70s movie that had Sting, directed by David Lynch and all that. Yeah, it wasn't all that great. They missed the mark, but they shouldn't have been making that movie back then. That was they just didn't have the good vision. Studio meddling happened, all that stuff. But they even did a remake on Sci-Fi Channel like years and years ago. It was like a 3-part series. They nailed the tone of it better, but the special effects were terrible. I mean, Sci-Fi Network back in the day, they couldn't do anything good there. But I am excited about it. So we'll see. I know it's going to be good. Denis Villeneuve is a visual mastermind. So if not anything, it's just going to be amazing to look at. Well, that's it, guys. That'll do it. Thank you so much for tuning back in for another episode of BrassReel Tonight. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it. And also, I'm going to be taking a day off tomorrow just because I got a couple more things I got to finish up. I'm just not fully caught up on the work that I need to do over the weekend. But I'll catch up on that soon. And then I'll be back on Wednesday for sure with some more stuff to talk about. And also, guys, remember, if you can't put comments in the comment section live, do it on BrassReel Bobby at BrassReel.com right here. And I'll get back to you. And also, if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button so you can help us make it to the top. And always, if life gives you lemons, make some hot, fresh popcorns. Peace. See you Wednesday.